From Orlando, Florida and Tulsa, Oklahoma, welcome to the 1330 Podcast with your hosts, Keith Neighbor and Brent Bailey. Pulling from nearly half a century of experience, Brent and Keith share unique wisdom and proven insight to build the leader within you. Interact with us now on Facebook and Twitter at 1330 Podcast or email your questions and comments to 1330podcast@gmail.com. The 1330 Podcast starts right now.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition, number 19 of the 1330 Podcast. My name is Keith Neighbor.
I'm Brent Bailey. It's always good to have you with us. We are talking about ministry opportunities that abound everywhere.
In our everyday lives as non-ministers, as non-pastors, but as followers of Christ.
I think where we jump off here at this is a good place is that we said it, but we haven't really explained it. But you, as a normal person, if you're in ministry, you know, obviously this pertains to you, but if you're just a...
Are they normal people too, Brent?
What's the word I'm looking for? Layperson is the word I'm thinking of. You're not a preacher. You're not a pastor, evangelist, a prophet,
yeah, but
teacher,
I don't think that we have to label it that way. I think that you just have to come back and say,
are you
as
breathing?
a Christian, as a believer.
There you go. See, that's why I said this. What do we call them?
Christians.
If you're a Christian, you have a relationship with Christ, and you have been in a relationship with Him. You have and you are somebody who represents Him, and you have an opportunity to represent Him to everybody else that's in this world. And you got to look at yourself as not just the, you know, of course we all have this story of what we used to do and what we used to be and what side of the tracks we came from or what city we came from or whatever. We all have that, but we're not those people anymore. We are now somebody who represents the Lord, and it doesn't matter if He's lived in you for 50 years or 5 minutes. You're now a representative, and you have what it takes to represent Him out there.
Let's create a new story then, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So how do we do that, Brent? What are some of the steps that we can take in order to write a new story or add to our story? Maybe it's to add to our story.
I think, and you know, as we were talking in the production meeting, I think it really begins with just your everyday actions. I mean, everybody's everyday actions have the ability to influence somebody.
When we were at the grocery store last week, it was a rainy day in Tulsa. There was a mom who was holding her toddler, unloading her grocery cart into the back of her SUV, and she dropped something. Just as I got out of the car, Jody and I were going out, and she dropped something, and I came in and kind of looked. I didn't realize that she dropped something. I thought she was just looking at the ground because of whatever reason, but Jody saw what she dropped. And she went over and picked it up and handed it to her. And the lady said, "Oh, thank you so much." And Jody goes, "I remember what it was like."
Yeah.
And the lady just looked at her like, "Thank you for identifying with me." And then Jody stood there and said, "Can I take your cart?" And the lady said, "Oh, no, do you need it?" And Jody goes, "No, but I'm just going to take it from you so you guys can get out of the rain and get your baby out of the rain a little bit quicker and get your car loaded, and we'll take it because we're going anyway." And she goes, "I'll just put it away." And we didn't need a cart. We were literally running in to grab, just a couple of items, and we were running right back out. And the look on that lady's face was just one of like, thank you. And it was something so small. It didn't take us, we literally waited for less than 30 seconds to get the cart and pick up whatever the item was that got dropped.
Yeah.
And that small little act of kindness spoke volumes to the lady.
Yeah.
We never preached. We never said anything else, but it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. I preach to my church all the time. When you go out somewhere, just the way you treat the people that work there is... There's so many opportunities for that. I mean, we all eat out at restaurants.
Yeah.
We all shop at grocery stores. We all go to, the big box department stores. The way you treat employees that are serving you at those places are huge opportunities to spread the gospel, even if it's just by actions. I have personally challenged my church to make sure you go and put those carts in those...
Oh, in the little cart corrals?
Cart corrals in the because you ever seen, and we've all seen those people out there. They look miserable tracking those carts down all over the parking lot in the rain. it makes their life so much easier. And I've actually gotten into the habit now where I go and grab the strays and take them down there as well, because and I've sat at Lowe's and have had the guys been like, "What are you doing?"
I go to Lowe's or Home Depot. I'm at a store like that multiple times a day. And normally I'm not using the shopping carts. I'm using the big. I'm getting
big skids.
Whatever. I'm getting all sorts of big loads of lumber. But I always take the carts and I always put them back underneath the canopy.
Yeah.
And I have guys all the time, the ones that are out there chasing those things down, because I don't know if you realize this or not, but if you ever go to a big box retailer, the parking lot slopes away from the building, and it's actually a pretty big slope. So if you just let one of those go, it will literally roll all the way to the back of the parking lot down by the street. And I always try and grab those and take them up so they don't have to go and get them. Or when I'm coming in, if there's a stray one sitting around, I'll just haul it into the store and use it anyway, because they're hard to find most of the time.
Right.
And I have those guys all the time that are like, "Man, what are you doing?" They're like, "Thank you so much."
Yeah.
Because when they haul those carts back, they haul them back 2 at a time. They can't haul them back 20 at a time. They don't have the little, cart pusher for those things,
little
That's all manual labor
Yeah.
right there, my man. So,
yeah. I mean, like when you're going to eat somewhere and you're rude to your waiter,
and then pray over your meal,
and then pray over your meal.
Yeah, that's a great example.
I mean, just little things. Like, I mean, I was out to eat one time with a minister, and he's a fairly well-known guy, and he said, "I always find out my server's name, and I call them by their name the whole time, and not in a, hey Keith, you jerk."
Yeah,
it's hey Keith, I would like to have, please, whenever you get a chance. I'm always giving them room to get it to me when they want.
When we were doing youth together, we had a guy come in, and hold on a second, I got a cough.
This is an awkward cough pause.
That's right.
So, when we were doing youth together,
we went to Carrabba's one night, and the minister that we had in, we sat down, and the waitress came up, and the first thing that he did was ask her name, and called her by name the entire time we were there, and asked about her life. And I don't remember what it was that was going on, and I'll never forget it, though, the way he looked at her, and he said, "Well, would it be okay if we prayed for you?"
Yeah.
And she looked at him like he was crazy and said, "I want to pray for you." And took her by the hand, and we all bowed our heads in the middle of the restaurant and prayed with him while he was praying for the waitress. Yeah. And it was just amazing to me that right in the middle of everybody in the restaurant, he's holding this young lady's hand, and it just meant the world to her.
And all that door was open came from him just treating her the right way.
We all were nice to her, but he's the one who asked, "What's your name?"
Yeah.
And remembered her name.
Yeah. It really, if I could ever just, if we could write a book about it, the nice side of evangelism, I mean, or whatever you're going to call it.
Yep.
I mean, just treating people the right way opens the biggest door and gives you the biggest influence. But now, let's say if you're one of those servers, you're one of those people, you're somebody that's coming in and you're one of their customers. How well are you doing your job?
Yeah.
Because that opens their, I mean, I know I've been, distracted or talking on the phone or whatever when I go into one of these places and got a lot of things going on and it's busy and I'm seriously, trying to figure something out. And in Orlando, they tend to teach not public service, but customer service.
Yep.
They teach that pretty good at one place in particular.
Yes. Got a lot of visitors every year there, don't they?
Visitors every year. And but a lot of those folks, get new jobs other places, but you can tell that they've had that inbred, into them.
Yep.
And I've had bad days turn into good days just because somebody took care of me at a place that I went in to spend money at. They took care of me as a person and as a customer. And if I had, if they had been selling something, I probably would have been interested.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So how well you do your job when you're out there? Do you really have good customer service? Are you? And it's not just about doing it to sell more product. It's about who are you representing when you do that. I remember a story of a pastor here. As we're recording this in our faithful location of Oral Roberts' old office, we're here in Tulsa recording this, and there was a pastor here in Tulsa who told a story about going to a appliance store to buy a TV. He wanted to buy one of them big flat screens, and he went in, and the guy walked up and recognized him and said, "Hey, Pastor so-and-so, I've seen you on TV before, and I really enjoy your preaching." And he's like, "Oh, man, that's great. I'm here to buy a TV." And he's standing in the TV section, and the guy says, "Oh, yeah, okay." But all he wanted to talk about was the things of God and the things that the pastor preached about. And the pastor, being a gracious man, stood there and said, "Yeah, praise God, that's great. That's wonderful." And tried to steer the conversation back to, because he's got to go get his kids and, pick up his kids after school and that kind of thing. And so he's like, "Hey, can you tell me about this TV?" And he goes, "Well, but this is what the word says, and this is what and he's just preaching away and really just agreeing with what the pastor had already preached. And so finally the pastor got a little bit frustrated and said, "Listen, I have to go. I have to to pick up my kids in a few minutes. Can you please help me pick out ask some questions about this TV?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't even work in this section." Anyway, he said, "I'm going to have to go get somebody for you." And so the guy walked away and sent the TV salesman over there. And that pastor said, "I was never more embarrassed to have somebody tell me they watch me on TV than that guy." He goes, "I would much rather that guy walk up to me and wow me with how much he knew about that TV than I would have been so delighted to know he was a believer."
Yep.
It just happened to me today. I bought the Apple Watch today, and a guy that I had in class.
Was that a humble brag?
It was a humble brag. It was a guy that we had in class. That's a friend of somebody that we know when we were teaching. He walked up to me, and I thought, and I kind of looked at him, and I was like, I know this guy, but I mean, he could be somebody. He could look just like somebody I know in Orlando. So maybe I don't know him, because he looks a little bit different because his hair's receded a little bit, and he just looked a little bit different. He used to wear glasses and stuff. And so he walks up and he goes, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm here to buy the Apple Watch." And so he says, "Well, let's go over here and let's look." And so he's showing me, and he goes, "No, I don't have this one, but I have this one." And so I ended up getting a white one, and I started asking questions about, does it show dirt and does it get dirty and all that kind of stuff. "Oh, no, you can just, wipe it off with a towel and it's good. It'll come right off. And, we got somebody here that runs in theirs and gets it sweaty and grimy and dirty." And we talked about the watch and the price. He was very informative and took my credit card information and swiped it and did all that stuff and it handed it back to me. And I said, "No, I can buy, a different color band." And yeah. They have them there in Orlando. And I had a shirt that says Orlando on it. And I said, "Oh, okay, cool." And he goes, "And by the way, you probably don't remember me." And I said, "Well, I'm sitting here trying to figure out who you are." And he goes, "Well, I'm so-and-so." He told me his name, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, yes. You used to wear glasses." And we wrapped up the conversation but I walked out of there going, "Man, that guy's good at his job."
Yep.
That's an opportunity to minister when you have that kind of opportunity right there. But we're about out of time.
We are about out of time. Time flies when we're having fun, Brent.
I know it, right?
Well, all right. Well, if you want to contact us, you can reach us at 1330@gmail.com or 1330podcast@gmail.com. You can see us on Twitter, Facebook at the 1330 Podcast. You can get Brent at Brent the Big Dog is what you are, or you can get me at the Neighborhood, NACHB as in boy, OR, on Twitter or on Facebook. We appreciate you guys listening today. Have a great afternoon or a great day, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for joining us for the 1330 Podcast with Brent and Keith. We want to hear from you. Find us on Facebook and Twitter today at 1330 Podcast or email us directly at 1330podcast@gmail.com. Join us next time for another 13 minutes and 30 seconds geared to change you into the leader that you and those who follow you want you to be.